Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Poland is celebrating the National Day of Remembrance of the Cursed Soldiers today for the 9th time. On 1st of March, Poles remember the tens of thousands of Polish underground soldiers who continued to fight on against the Soviet and communist regimes following the Second World War. For their struggle for freedom, the fighters often paid the ultimate price.
The Łączka section of the military cemetery Polski in Warsaw is essential for understanding the story of the cursed soldiers. They fought alone. The Western world saw what was happening in Poland and remained silent. They were attacked not only with bullets, but first and foremost with hate speech. The search and exhumation works at Łączka ended in July 2017. More than 60 bodies were identified. We have found all the bodies buried here at Łączka, and now we're trying to identify all of them and give them back their names. I'm asking everyone, be patient. It's a long process and it will take some time to identify them all, but I'm sure that this day will come. The remains of Andrzej Stryjewski's father haven't been found yet. He fought until the year 1949 when he was murdered at the Rakowiecka prison in Warsaw. His body is likely to have been thrown into one of the mass graves at Łączka. My dad hasn't been found and he may never be found. They hated him very much. He was given the death sentence 38 times, so they just as well might have disposed of his body entirely. The communists did worse things for revenge. The communist authorities also hunted down the cursed soldiers' children. They kept an eye on us all the time. They made sure that we couldn't get any proper education, we couldn't get into college or get a good job. They called us criminals in school. I remember how our teacher told my brother, "You're a criminal, come to the board." Along with Łączka, one of the most important and tragic places connected to the cursed soldiers is the prison at Rakowiecka Street. A year ago it was transformed into the Museum of Cursed Soldiers. Among those murdered here were famous Polish heroes like General Emil Fieldorf, codename Nil, Rittmeister Witold Pilecki, Colonel Łukasz Ciepliński, Hieronim Dekutowski, codename Zapora, Zygmunt Szędzielarz, codename Łupaszka, and 300 other cursed soldiers. Just after the Second World War had ended, a few dozen thousand Polish soldiers fought against Soviet occupants. After 1947, there were no more than 2,000 of them left. We should be calling what was happening in Poland after 1944 a Soviet occupation and the struggle against the Soviets and the communists of the cursed soldiers, the last Polish uprising. The National Day of Remembrance of the Cursed Soldiers has been celebrated since 2011.
The Law and Justice Party's new programme, introduced at last Saturday's Congress by party leader Jarosław Kaczynski, will cost over 40 billion zloty to put in place. Key elements of the programme include an extension of the popular 500-plus programme to cover the first child and not just the second and subsequent children as at present, and an additional annual payment of 1,100 zloty for pensioners. Today, the head of the Prime Minister's Chancellery, Michał Dworczyk, and government spokeswoman Joanna Kopczyńska talked about the implementation of the programme in some detail.
The question about the cost of these programs appears quite often. We have to say it clearly, 800 million zlotys per year. This amount will be allocated for more bus connections to smaller cities. When it comes to the income tax return, people under the age of 26 will be exempt from paying personal income tax. The cost of this will reach to between 3 billion zlotys. Taxpayers will pay 7 to 10 billion zlotys less to the state budget, so the income to the state budget will be lower. The so-called 13th pension is the program where retirees will get an annual additional benefit of 1,100 zlotys. This proposition will cost 9 to 10 billion zlotys per year. And the last point, an expansion of the 500-plus program for the families with one child as well. The cost of this reaches 18 billion zlotys per year.
As it was before, citizens can file motions in the community they live in. They can do it by writing a letter or sending an email. The question about whether the 500-plus program for every first child will be counted in the income. We are sure that the support people get from this program is not counted in the income, and this will remain the case.
The Mayor of Warsaw, Rafał Trzaskowski, has been in office for 100 days, so now is a good time to review his record so far. In a speech today, Trzaskowski emphasised a package of measures that it was claimed would make life easier for the Warsawians. But for the city residents, most noticeable so far is his rainbow agenda. He has already signed the LGBT plus declaration and established a diversity tram, which unfortunately broke down the day it was first sent out onto the streets. Ursula Regala has the story.
During the 100 Days in Office conference, Rafał Trzaskowski listed the achievements of his mayorship.
At the start of the term, we opened 3 kindergartens and we are accelerating construction of 15 new schools. Another issue is teachers' pay rises, which we implement with compensation from January. Then there is the nursery, because we have initiated the program of free nurseries and we are preparing nurseries for 1,000 more children. The health program, prevention, especially when it comes to dental issues. When it comes to women's programs, more money for in vitro and for vaccinations. When it comes to public transport, I already made decisions relating to new tram lines. We also have analysis concerning the possible extension of the second metro line.
Patryk Jaki, who lost his mayoral election bid to Rafał Trzaskowski, is critical.
We remember what he promised. We know that this very year he will not implement things he said were the most important. There are no promised metro lines planned, no promised 100 zlotys for each child for additional activities, no promised nurseries, no promised smog payments, there is no settlement for reprivatization. But what do we have? We have millions spent on LGBT, we have a diversity tram, we have attempts to build a museum of an anti-government street movement. That is why I think it is a disgrace. I mean, the city is moving in an ideological direction and it should be moving towards improving the quality of life for people.
Columnist Rafał Ziemkiewicz has no doubt that Trzaskowski's promises were nothing short of a pork barrel.
His ambitions are for something higher. He is aiming for the Prime Minister's chair and even considering taking over the reins of the Civic Platform Party from Donald Tusk after his supposed return to Poland. In any case, you can see that he really does not take care of Warsaw. Everything stays the same. As before, Warsaw is ruled by Mr. Kierwiński, and it is a pity that he did not run. At least the situation would be obvious. The guy who ran and won is in charge and is accountable for delivering election promises.
Rafał Trzaskowski won last year's race for the mayorship of Warsaw in the first round, receiving 56.7% of the votes. He was supported by over 500,000 Warsawians.
Dawid Kubacki of Poland achieved a spectacular victory on the normal hill at the World Championship ski jumping in Seefeld. After managing a disappointing first jump of only 85.3 metres, Kubacki was in 27th place after the first round. The 28-year-old, who was part of the World Championship winning Polish team on the large hill 2 years ago, then produced a second jump of 104.5 metres, which was enough to catapult him into first position and the gold medal, as the remaining field failed to catch him. Fellow Pole Kamil Stoch was second and Stefan Kraft of Austria third. It was the success of Polish ski jumper Adam Małysz, who won 4 world championships between 2001 and 2007, which first propelled the sport from relative obscurity to something of a national passion in Poland. That's all from the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, business and more besides. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.